name's Twice, and today I'll be making another CSGO tier list. This time I'll be reviewing every glove in CSGO, but fortunately, this is probably going to be the last tier list I make, because I don't really have anything else to make tier lists on. But let's get into it. So, the first gloves that we have are, I think, the Force DD Pack gloves, which it's honestly kind of a shit skin on knives, but on the gloves I don't mind it. Plus, it's hand wraps too, so you don't even have to see it on the fingers. So, I feel like this could definitely go well with like maybe some green skins, some green knives, something like that. So, with all that in mind, I'm gonna put this one in C tier. Real quick, I'm gonna put the Boreal next to this one, because they're basically the same skin, just one slightly brighter than the other. Next up, we have the Desert Schmog. I have no idea how to fucking pronounce that name, but I honestly like it better than the Boreal and the DD Pat. It has like a nice texture to it. It's also brown too. So I feel like that could go with a lot of guns. So with all that in mind, I'm going to place this in B tier. Next up, we have the hand wraps Badlands. Now, I like these. They look pretty decent. Uh, I do really like the orange, but it also does really remind me of the Boreal Forest. So I think that alone, like with just how it really looks like this, is gonna put it at the top of C tier, definitely above these two, but I wouldn't say at the same level as the one up here. Next up, we have the hand wraps Caution. Now, I think this one's pretty cool. I remember when they were first released, these were the gloves that I always wanted from that case, the Broken Fang collection, I think. But I don't know. I just think these are pretty funny. They also go pretty good with a couple skins. They're bright yellow, so I could go with some shit. So just because this one's kind of funny, but also looks pretty good, I want to put this shit in A tier. Next up, we got the hand wraps duct tape. These kind of remind me of the Caution, but I do definitely like the Caution better. But I also found these pretty funny. So I don't know. These don't really go with skins as well, though. That is definitely true, since it's the color duct tape. It's literally duct tape. But they are still pretty cool gloves. So with that in mind, I'm gonna place these at the top of B tier. Now we're finally getting to some of the cool gloves. So we have the hand wraps Cobalt Skulls, which is a pretty sick skin. It's got the blue with a bunch of black skulls on it, which I definitely fuck with. This goes well with like a lot of skins because it's like completely blue. Go well with your blue gems, blue skins, all that kind of stuff. But this glove skin does definitely look pretty awesome. So with that in mind, I think I'm gonna make this our first S tier. Next up, we have another really cool glove skin, the overprint. Now, I really fuck with light blue gloves in this game, just because I think they look good, especially in CS2. So I am pretty biased towards skins like this, but I just think it looks really cool and could go well with a lot of things. And honestly, I'm putting this in S tier too, but definitely below the Cobalt Skull, because the Cobalt Skull could it's like the hand wrap skin. Next up, another really cool one, the hand wraps Giraffe. Now, I don't like these as much as the other two, but I feel like a lot of people definitely do, which I do understand, but they just don't look like as cool as these two to me. But they still do look very awesome, which is why I'm going to place it at the top of A tier, above the Caution tape. I would say this is like an A plus, like almost S tier. Next up, we have the hand wraps leather. Now, these do look like the duct tape and Caution tape, but in my opinion, without most of the cool parts, though, the leather doesn't look bad. Uh, it just kind of looks like plain to me, which is why I'm going to put these in C tier. Because I don't think it deserves to be below these, but it is still pretty plain. Next up, we have the hand wraps constrictor. Now, these in my opinion are super cool. They have like snake skin on them, so I fuck with that. So, but I don't know if this could go with skins very well now that I think about it, but either way, you're literally wearing a snake on your hands. That's pretty fucking awesome. So, I'm going to put that at the bottom of A tier, just because of how cool I think it is. Alright, now we have the hand wrap slaughter. This is going to be our last hand wrap skin, and surprisingly, this is the only red hand wrap skin. So with that in mind, and the slaughter just being like a cool skin in general, I am going to put this right below giraffe on A tier. Next up, we have the Moto Gloves Eclipse. These are our first Moto gloves that we're reviewing right here. And these are mostly all black with like a streak of yellow in them to like show a lunar eclipse, I think. Which I fuck with these gloves. Though they are a little plain, the all black does definitely look nice. It's not like plain in a bad way like the leather. It's just like plain in a way like the slate. Like that it still looks good. So with that in mind, plus the fact that I fuck with Moto gloves way more than hand wraps, I'm going to put this at the top of A tier. Next up, we have Moto Gloves Turtle. I kind of fuck with these. I fuck with the all green. I wouldn't say I fuck with it as hard as the all black, but it definitely does look good. So I think I'm gonna place this above the hand wraps, but below the slaughter in A tier. Next up, we have the Moto Gloves Blood Pressure, which, in my opinion, is one of the sickest looking gloves in CSGO. You've got like all the red veins running through the gloves, and the red and black go really well, and it kind of reminds me of the Crimson Web, which also means it goes really well with Crimson Web skins. So, with all that in mind, just how awesome it looks, I'm going to be placing it above the overprint, but no, honestly, I like it more than the Cobalt Skull. I'm placing these at the top of S tier. Next up, we have the Moto Gloves Finish Line. Now, these are also pretty cool, but I wouldn't say they are in my taste as much as like something like the Turtle. But the checker does go pretty hard, so I wouldn't say S tier, but yeah, top of B tier. I'd rather have these than the duct tape, I think. Next up, we have the Moto Gloves POW. Now, these are pretty cool, but I don't know about these. Like, I'm not really sure if it's an S or an A tier. These are kind of expensive, but I don't really understand why. They do look good, but I don't know why they're so much more expensive than like a bunch of the other gloves. So, I'm probably gonna put these, yeah, at the bottom of B tier. They don't look bad, but I don't know. There just isn't really anything about them that stands out to me. Alright, so now we have the Moto Gloves Third Company. Now, I don't really fuck with these too hard because they kind of remind me of the Boreal and the Forest DD since it's kind of got that same like forest camo thing going on, except it's got a little bit of red in there too. So that makes me want to put it in C tier, definitely the top of C tier. And honestly, now that I'm thinking about these two, I don't really think they deserve to be C tier, but I'm just gonna put them like down into D tier. I was originally saving these two rows for these skins because most of them are pretty shit, but these kind of deserve to be down here too. Next up, we have the Monoglove Spearmint. These are also awesome. Like I said, I do love light blue skins, and the light blue and the white go really well on this skin. So, thinking of all that, I am going to place this in S tier. Below this one, because this right now on my list is my favorite gloves, but we'll see what happens next. Next up, Moto Gloves Boom. I honestly kind of fuck with these, even though they're kind of just gray and have the word boom on them. I would say they're definitely on the same level as the POW, but honestly a little better because I think the gray just goes a little better. So I'm gonna put them below the duct tape because at least the duct tape is funny, but these are both just gray. Next up, we have the Moto Gloves Smoke Out. Now, I kind of fuck with these, even though they're just black and gray, but I feel like that definitely goes better than just like gray like the boom or the duct tape. So, also, now that I'm looking at this a bit more closely, the grid's also in some pretty sick places. So, I am going to put these below the caution tape, but above the constrictor and A tier. Next up, we have the Moto Gloves Cool Mint. Now, I'm also a pretty big fan of these. Like I said, I like light blue skins. So, I don't think I like them as much as the Spearmint or the Overprint. Yeah, I do like the Overprint better. So, I'm going to put this at the bottom of S tier, but it is still a really cool glove skin. Next up, we have the Moto Gloves Polygon. Another glove skin that I really like. In case you can't tell, I like the color blue. But these, honestly, remind me a bit of the Cobalt Skulls. They have like the same color scheme going on, but honestly, I think I prefer these over the Cobalt Skull. This versus the Spearmint, honestly, I'd prefer this. I don't think it could beat the blood pressure just yet, but these are definitely my top two. If I had like a ruby and a sapphire, these would be my two play gloves. Next up, we have the Moto Gloves Transport. This one's a pretty plain skin, but something about this gloves just makes me want to like it. There isn't really much going on with it, but the Moto gloves already look cool enough that they don't really need that much. And sadly, this will be the last Moto gloves I'm reviewing, so I'm gonna put these at the top of B tier, because I think I'd definitely rather have these than the finish line, but I don't think it reaches A tier. Next up, we have our first driver's gloves, the Lunar Weave. I honestly fuck with these. Though there isn't too much going on, they're just a nice looking glove. Plus, the driver's gloves always look nice. So, that in mind, these aren't really anything special, but I want to put them in the middle of B tier. Uh, am I putting them in B tier? Hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna put them in B tier, but pretty low B tier. I don't know. Something about this skin makes me want to put it in C tier, but all of the skins in C tier are like a good amount worse than these, I feel like. Next up, we have the driver's glove snow leopards. I honestly fuck with these. They look pretty sick. I like the white and the leopard print. Nothing wrong with the leopard print. I'm not really sure where I would place these though. Yeah, definitely higher than B tier. Yeah, I'm putting these in A. Yeah, top of A tier. They look really nice, and I think I like them better than all the ones in here, but I don't think it's really hitting S tier for me. The next driver's gloves we have are the Queen Jaguar. Pretty similar to the Snow Leopard, just this one's brown instead of white. I like this one a bit less. I feel like the white stands out more and just looks better, but this one doesn't look bad either. Leopard print still looks cool, or Jaguar print, I don't know. Um, I honestly prefer the giraffe, but yeah, I think middle of A tier is definitely a good spot for these, because I definitely like them better than these. Definitely higher than B tier, but these are just better in my opinion. Next up, we have the driver's gloves convoy. Now, honestly, this is just these two, but in driver's glove form. But I do definitely like the driver's gloves better than the hand wraps, so I'm gonna put this at the top of D tier. I'm gonna give this one like a D plus. While these two get like a D. Next up, we have driver's gloves Imperial Plaid. Now, this is I think the first purple color gloves we're reviewing, and in my opinion, purple is one of the best colors on gloves in CSGO. Now, with purple, that already means it's going to be pretty high ranking, but there's also the plaid on it, which I don't really fuck with as hard. but it still does look really cool. So with that in mind, I think I'm going to put this high up in A tier, with only the plaid like holding it back from S tier. Next up, we got the Crimson Weave. This is basically the red version of this glove, but honestly, I think the red and black goes way better than the blue and black here. So, though I'm not really the biggest fan of the pattern, I do like these a good amount better. So, I'm going to put these at the bottom of A tier. Next up, we have Riza and the red gloves. Now, these are both red, but I just like these better, just because I think the glove itself looks nicer, not really like the coloring or anything. So, I'm honestly going to put this at the bottom of S tier, just because I think it looks pretty nice. Go well with some rubies, some red skins, maybe red stickers. A lot of shit you could do with these gloves. Next up, we have the driver's gloves King Snake. Now, in my opinion, with the snake skin and the white on it, this is one of like the coolest white colored gloves in CSGO, if not like the best. So, with that in mind, I think I'm going to place these, uh, yeah, even above the Cobalt Skulls in S tier, making this like a pretty high S tier in my opinion. I don't know why I like these so much. I'm not really that big of a fan of like all white gloves. The Snow Leopard looks nice. That's what I'm thinking is like similar to this, but the snake skin just goes really well with the white color on the gloves. Next up, we have the driver's glove Diamondback. Now, like with all the other skins with fucking snake skin on them, I've ranked them pretty highly. And even though this is definitely by far like the plainest out of all of them, I'm still gonna rank it decently high at the top of B tier. Just because, like I said earlier, the snake skin looks cool to me. Next up, we have the driver's gloves Overtake. I fuck with these a bit. I like the black and orange combo, though I feel like you could see the orange a bit more. The pattern on the back of the gloves looks nice too, but I don't think there's really anything too special about these, but they do look pretty nice. So, thinking about where I would put these. Um, yeah, honestly, I'm gonna put these in low A tier. Yeah, below these, above these two. Low A tier is probably a good place for these. Next up, we have the driver's gloves black tie. Now, in my opinion, this is one of the nicest driver's gloves, with the black and white just going together really well, and nothing's really wrong with these gloves. So, I mean, I feel like you all probably expected me to put this up here, but honestly, yeah, I'm gonna put them over the King Cobra and the Spearmint. This is my number 3 glove, black tie. These two are still definitely on top for me, but the black tie just looks super nice. Now we move on to the last pair of driver's gloves, the driver's gloves Racing Green. Now, a lot of people don't like these, and I can understand why, but in my opinion, these are a bit overhated. Some of the cheapest gloves in the game, so you could get it on a budget. Plus, there's nothing really bad about it, besides maybe being like a little plain. Well, I can't really give this B tier. I'm not really going to place it down here in D tier, because I do think it's way better than everything else down here. C tier, I think, yeah, I would rather have these than anything else in here, but doesn't go up to a B tier. Maybe like a C plus if I'm feeling generous, but top of C tier is where these should go. So now, next up, we have the Forest DD Pack gloves. Now, I want to be honest, I don't fuck with these at all. Like, even less than the other camo skins up here. I don't know. The skin just like is too dark or something. I don't know. It just kind of looks shit to me. So I think I'm gonna make this our first F tier. Next up, we have the Specialist Gloves Fade. Now, I'm gonna be honest, the fade doesn't look nearly as good on the gloves as it does on knives. I don't know. Something about the fade just doesn't really fit on here. But even saying that, it doesn't really look all that bad, which honestly, I would rather have the fade than anything low here. Nah, I'd rather have those gray gloves there, the smoke out. So I'm gonna place the fade in a low B tier. I think that's a good spot for it. Definitely not as good as the knives, but not all that bad either. Next up, we got the Specialist Gloves Field Agent. Now, I really fuck with the yellow and blue on here, but I feel like this would be like only good on CT side for some reason. It looks like it would fit with the CT outfit, not so much with T side, but I still do really like how these look. So, that in mind, no, they're really only the best on one side. I'm gonna place it high B tier. Next up, we have the Specialist Gloves Buckshot. Now, this glove has literally all the same problems as the DD Pat, except this one is browner, so it kind of looks like it's covered in shit. So, I'm gonna place it at the bottom of F tier. Next up, we have the Driver's Gloves Crimson Kimono. Now, this is another really good glove skin. This is definitely already automatically gonna be S tier, and not gonna lie, I like these better than the Blood Pressure. These are insanely expensive though, which makes sense, but they also just look so amazing to the point where it's like it makes sense that they're that much. Next up, we have the Specialist Gloves Marble Fade. Now, on the gloves, I think Marble Fade honestly looks a bit better than Fade. The Marble Fade just like, I don't know, goes together with it more. Plus, the red and black looks better with the Fade than the blue and black. So, that in mind, I'm going to place these in A tier, above the hand wrap Slaughter, but below the hand wraps Giraffe. So, a pretty high A tier. Next up, we have the Specialist Gloves Foundation. Now, I didn't really like the last orange and like white gloves that I had, but these look quite a bit better to me. So, I think proper place for these is high B tier. I honestly like these better than the Transport. Something about these just like looks nice to me. Next up, we have the Specialist Gloves Lieutenant Commander. Now, these are also camo, but this is a blue and black camo instead of a green and black or green and brown or whatever. So I like these way better than the camos down here, but these also don't really look that great. So right now I'm feeling C tier. Honestly, yeah, I'm putting these the bottom of C tier. They're still just like the same camo finish, nothing special about them, but it doesn't have like awful colors, so I don't want to put it down here with these. But I think bottom of C tier is a good spot for them. Next up, we have the Specialist Gloves Tiger Strike. This is basically just Tiger Tooth on gloves. Now, to me, this honestly looks like an inverse of this gloves, the foundation. But I am a big fan of the Tiger Tooth knife skin, and this honestly goes pretty well onto these gloves. So, I'm going to rank it a bit higher than the foundation, about mid A tier. So here's a good spot for it. Next up, we have the Specialist Gloves Crimson Web. Another knife skin moved over to gloves. Crimson Web also goes pretty well with the glove skins, which, with all of the finishes, it would go well with Crimson Web knives, but the red and black also goes well with a lot of other skins. So, because I like these so much, honestly, I'm going to move this to bottom of S tier, and I'm going to move these down to top of A tier. I think that's fair. Next, our last pair of Specialist Gloves, Mogul. So, these aren't bad. They've got the blue, dark blue, white pattern going on. I like those a lot, but not really sure where I would place these. Definitely above B tier. Yeah. Um, Not really sure if I'd place this in S though. Um, yeah, nah. I'm gonna put this in S tier. Below the Crimson Web for sure though. I do like the Crimson Web better, but these also look pretty great, and I think they should be up here at least. Next up, we have the sports gloves. This is our first pair of sports gloves now, and we're starting off with the Omega. Now, I'm pretty sure that a good amount of these, and by a good amount, I mean like all of these are going to be at least decently high ranking because the sports gloves all look amazing. Besides maybe like one or two, but with the Omega, I do like the black and yellow a bit, so I'm gonna put these. Yeah, I honestly like these better than the Eclipse, so I'm gonna put these above the Eclipse, but below the Snow Leopard in A tier. Next up, we have the Sports Gloves Vice. Now, one of the most popular gloves in CSGO. You've probably seen this. I've seen this. They look great, and they're also extremely expensive. But with all that in mind, I'm putting these above the black tie at nearly the top of S tier. I like these two better because of the ability to like pair with a ruby or a sapphire, but Vice is definitely up there. Next up is the Sports Glove Hedge Maze, but in my opinion, these are some of the nicest looking green gloves in the game. They're definitely up there in S tier 2 with the Vice. I honestly like the colors on the Vice a bit more though, so these might be a bit lower ranked, but yeah, I'm placing this below the black tie. I do like the black tie a little bit better, but these do look amazing, so they're deserved S tier. Next up, we have the Sports Glove Scarlet Schmog. Still don't know how to say that from the ones from earlier, but these also look super nice. I fuck with the checkered pattern on them, so while I wouldn't put them in S tier, I would definitely put them high up in A tier. Thinking below the Omega, but above the Eclipse. Next up, we have the Sports Gloves Big Game. Now, in my opinion, these are the worst sports gloves. Actually, no, a few could be worse, but even if these are like some of the worst sports gloves, they still don't look that bad. So, with that in mind, I'm going to place this above the finish line in B tier. Next up, we have the Sports Gloves Nox. Now, I fuck with the all black on the sports gloves, even though you can't really tell these are sports gloves that much, but I still think it goes well on them. So, I do like these better than the big game. So, while it may not be an S tier, it is a decently high A tier, below the hand wrap slaughter. Next up, we have the Sports Glove Superconductor. I fuck with these. The black, white, and blue look good. Though I wish there was a bit more blue on these. They still do look great. Definitely like them better than the Nox. Honestly, even a little bit more than the Omega. So I'm going to place these at the top of A tier. Next up is the Sports Gloves Arid. Now, this is also another pretty plain sports gloves, but honestly, they don't really look that bad. In my opinion, they remind me a lot of the Transport, but I do like these a good bit better than the Transport. So thinking top of B tier, low A tier. Uh, yeah, low A tier. I'm gonna put them right below the caution wraps. Next, we have the Sports Gloves Amphibious. Now, these do look super nice, and in my opinion, honestly look better than the Moto gloves up here. So, with that in mind, these are definitely my favorite blue skin on here, and they take these place for what kind of gloves I would want to use with a Sapphire. Next up, Sports Gloves Bronze Morph. Now, this in my opinion is really the only ugly looking sports gloves, but honestly, they don't look anywhere near as bad as like the Boreal or anything down here. And I don't know. I'm not really sure where to put these because I feel like C tier would also be too low. Yeah. Alright. I'm putting them above the Fade, but I don't really like these too much. But C, D, and F would be too low. Next up, we have the Pandora's Box. Now, these honestly look amazing. I really fuck with the purple on them. And besides the Vice, I would say these are my favorite sports gloves. Now, I like these better than the Vice. Honestly, Pandora's Box, trying to see if I'd like them better than the Kimono or not. Honestly, yeah, I'd put these on the top of my list. These look amazing. Next up is the slingshot gloves. Fun fact about these, I actually unboxed one of these once, right when they came out with the Broken Fang collection, and that was the first gold I ever unboxed. So I might be a little biased towards these, but they still do look really good. So thinking either A or S tier for these. Yeah, I'm gonna give these above the Omega, but below the Conductor, yeah. Super high A tier, but not just quite reaching the top. Next up, we have the Bloodhound gloves charred. These are our first Bloodhound gloves, and is the start of the series where like gloves have certain emblems on them from like operations or something, and usually like spikes on there. And I'm not gonna lie, this is definitely my least favorite type of glove, but some of these do look decent, so I'll make sure to give them a fair rating. But I think out of all the Bloodhound gloves, these are my favorite by far. It's just like the glove type is what's holding it back. I wouldn't put these above the Marble Fade, but low B tier seems like a good spot. I definitely prefer those over any of these. Next up, we have the Bloodhound Gloves Gorilla. Now, this combines my least favorite type of glove with my least favorite glove finish. So, with that in mind, this is going at the bottom of F tier. If there was a tier lower than F tier, I would honestly probably put these there. There's not really anything redeeming about these gloves. Next up, we have the Bloodhound Bronzed. Now, these honestly don't look that good either. They're just like a shiny brown. Well, yeah, bronze, but it doesn't really look that good. So, I don't think it deserves an F tier, but yeah, I'd honestly rather have these camo skins than this. So, bottom of D tier goes. Now, thankfully, we have our last Bloodhound gloves. Now, these are the Snakebite, and these are also pretty decent looking Bloodhound gloves, but I don't really like them as much as the Chard. Like I said earlier, and every other time the glove has snakeskin on it, I think snakeskin looks cool, especially on gloves. But yeah, no, not even B tier. I'm placing these at the top of C tier because you could barely see the snakeskin anyway with the emblem on it. Now we have the Broken Fang gloves, which basically the Bloodhound gloves, but Broken Fang emblem instead of Bloodhound. So these are the needlepoint. These honestly don't have anything good about them. I don't stand out at all. They just kind of have some needles on them and don't really look that great. I'd honestly rather have the specialist gloves, even the shit looking one, than these. Next up, we have the Jade. Now, the Jade is the Broken Fangs version of the Bronze, but the Jade looks so much better than the Bronze because it actually has like color to it and isn't just like a brown shit color. So, well, I don't really like the glove type. I do like the finish. So, I honestly think this goes higher than the Bloodhound Gloves Shard. Yeah, I'm gonna place this above the Bronze Morph just because the Bronze Morph looks like shit, but I can't place these too high. I think B tier is fair. Next up, we have the Broken Fang Yellow Banded. Now, I honestly really like the finish on this one, but the glove type itself is definitely holding these back. Between this and the Jade, I'd honestly rather have this, but this isn't getting any higher on the list. I'd rather have like any other gloves that are higher than this. So I guess low B tier. Next up, the last Broken Fangs gloves, the Unhinged. Now, these are a lot like the Charred. They're just like black and gray. Now, they're honestly really the exact same, except for the emblem, but I feel like this one looks like it pops out a little bit more, so I'm just gonna rank it above that, but they're really in the same place, equal to each other. They're basically the same skin, but with different emblems. Now, last but not least, we have the Hydra gloves. First one we have on here is the Emerald. Now, the Hydra gloves, I think, out of the Broken Fang and the Bloodhound, look better than those, but not by much, since they're still the same gloves, different emblem. I've said that a couple times already, but I fuck with the black and green on here. It looks pretty nice. Yeah. Alright. I'm gonna put these a couple places higher than the Jade and the Yellow Banded, but not too much higher. These are the still same type of gloves, but they look alright. Now, we have the Hydra gloves case hardened. Now, in my opinion at least, case hardened does not look good at all on gloves. Honestly, not really the move to try to port that over to gloves, but they did that with a lot of other knife finishes, so I see why they tried to. But it really just doesn't look good on them. So with that in mind, I'll place them at the top of D tier. I'm not going to give them an F, but honestly, I just would not want these gloves. Next up are the Hydra gloves Mangrove. Now, these are basically just a racing green, but with Hydra gloves. And since Hydra gloves are basically just worse normal gloves, I'm going to place this. No, I like these better than the bronzed. I'm placing this at the bottom of D tier. Honestly, fuck the bronze. I'm moving these down to the top of F tier. Fuck them. Now, our final pair of gloves, the last pair of Hydra gloves, and any gloves I'll be reviewing on this list, is the Hydra Gloves Rattler. Now, what I said with the Bloodhound gloves with the snakeskin was you couldn't really see them at all, so that kind of ruins the effect. But with these, they have a picture of a snake on them, so I feel like that goes kind of well. Plus, I like how these look quite a bit better than the Bloodhound version, so while I wouldn't rank these as high as the Jades, or honestly either the Chards, I am going to put these near the bottom of B tier. So, that was the last gloves that I had to put on the list. I hope you enjoyed watching me rank these. This will probably be the last tier list I make. Um, this took a fucking long ass time to do, but honestly it was kind of fun. So, I'll see you all next time.